What's happening, family? So today I wanted to get into the topic of Damballa. You know what I'm saying? So in Voodoo, you have Damballah Wedo and you have Ayida Wedo. So Damballah Wedo is basically the Great Serpent. You know what I'm saying? He's like the father of the sky. You know what I'm saying? So Damballa lives in the sky, and then you have Ayida Wedo, who is the rainbow serpent, which is his wife. Okay? So as you see, I got Damballa. This is my snake. His name is Damballa too. I named my snake Damballa. He's a ball python. But throughout my life, I've had snakes. I once had a 12-foot Burmese python that used to eat rabbits. You know what I'm saying? So I've always kept snakes, different things like that. Man, I'm a real brujo, yo. Real brujos, we not afraid of nothing. You know what I'm saying? I got tarantulas. One of my spiders is this big. You know what I'm saying? So real brujos, we not afraid of nothing. My grandmother, she was when she was younger, she practiced Puerto Rican sanse, and she's a real one. Like, she would take my giant python, she would just kiss it in the mouth. She didn't care. You know what I'm saying? Real bruja, you not afraid of nothing. Yeah, she's a real old school Puerto Rican. She 81 years old now. You know what I'm saying? She's a real old school Puerto Rican. So basically, when we talking about Damballah Wedo, let's go into the origin of Damballa. All right. So the origin of Damballa comes from Ouida, Benin, which is ancient Dahomey Empire. Okay, as we know it, that's the origin as we know it in Voodoo. Damballa goes back further than that, and we're going to get into that. Um, so the myth around Damballa is Damballa was said to have created the cosmos with his movements. He was said to wrap around the world 7,000 times. That 7 is an important number because we see it pop up again in what? 7 chakras, right? And this is why it's important, especially for people of African descent, for you to understand the history behind what's going on, because you'll get sucked into cultures that it really come from your culture. And if you went to your culture, you would find a deeper power behind it, a more potent power. But since you don't know that, you still on a chakra level. You still dealing with chakras. But if you just go a little step behind that, you're gonna find all of this space that was your ancestors. Okay? It's very important. So Damballa lives in the sky, of course, and is married to the rainbow serpent Ayida Wedo. So that's a little bit of his backstory. Now let's get into the meaning of Damballa. So the first word of his name, the first piece of his name, Da. So the Da, according to the Fan, is the life force. All right. That's according to the Fan people. So Damballa is the life force. Understand, Damballa is your life force. Okay. Damballa is the masculine aspect of life force and fertility, while his wife Ayida Wedo is the feminine aspect of the same. Damballa can be thought of as the sperm and Ayida Wedo the egg. In fact, white eggs are often given as offerings. So their offering reflects their role. And this is a common thing that you see in various traditions. The offering often is going to reflect the role of whatever deity that you're going to. So with Damballa, he is the masculine aspect. He's the sperm. He's the life force. Ayida Wedo is the egg that gets fertilized. Okay. So he's used and he represents peace, harmony, wisdom, ancient intelligence, and he's not a malevolent spirit. So he's not a spirit that does harm. He's a benevolent spirit. You see what I'm saying? So Damballa just wants peace. He wants harmony. He gives wisdom. He gives ancient knowledge. Okay, that's it. And he's the oldest Loa known. He's the oldest one. He's so old he doesn't speak. He only hisses. That's how old Damballa is. Alright? So let's look at Damballa in ancient Africa. So let's look at the oldest spiritual belief in the world. So in the Ngami land region of Botswana, there's a tradition that's the oldest known spiritual tradition in the world. Okay? Where people used ritual. And that was about 70,000 years ago. Before that, the oldest spiritual tradition would start to be in Europe, which was 40,000 years ago. No, they found something older in Botswana. It's 70,000 years old, okay? So that's the oldest known ritual. Once again, it comes out of where? Africa. That's why I say when y'all jumping into chakras and stuff, that's cool, but that belongs to East Indian people. As someone of African descent, you have a much older form of the same practices that is in line with your ancestry, that their traditions came from in the first place. Without your tradition, theirs wouldn't exist. So if you have that lineage, why not jump over a chakra and go right into that part of it? Damballa. See what I'm saying? Some people not going to understand because you don't understand the importance of ancestry. You might not understand the importance of tradition. You might not understand the importance that if you don't keep it alive, it will die. And everything that your ancestors built will go to another culture. And they will take the credit for your own ancestors. That's important. That's important. Because those ancestors are to be honored because they the reason your ass here right now. Know that. So Professor Sheila Coulson from the Oslo University is the one who discovered everything. She's the one who discovered all of this 70,000-year-old remnants of ancient tradition that was found in the Salido Hills, okay, of Botswana. So the Salido Hills are still a sacred place for the local San people, all right? And they call it the Mountains of the Gods. And the rock that whispers. Remember, Damballa is so old, he does not speak. He just hisses. Alright? That's how old he is. According to their creation myth, mankind descended from the python, and the ancient arid stream beds around the hills are said to have been created by the python as it circled the hills in its ceaseless search for water. Once again, Damballa tied to creation. So what they're saying is when Damballa started to move, he started to create the valleys. He started to create the mountains. He started to create the oceans with his movements because he was wrapped around the earth 7,000 times. Okay? This is important. In the course of their excavation, the Norwegian Botswana team found more than 13,000 artifacts. All of the objects were spearheads and articles that could be connected with ritual use, as well as tools used in carving the stone. So they found a lot. This was a big excavation. This wasn't a small excavation where they just found a couple things and they like, oh, well, you know, maybe they were doing this. Nah, this was a whole culture that they found. All right. Now let's look at Damballa in Egypt. So in Egypt, the pharaoh wore the uraeus. You see the pharaoh head. It's the uraeus, right? It's a symbol of a reared snake worn by pharaohs. The snake symbolizes the goddess Wajet, and she was an ancient protective deity of Lower Egypt and granted the pharaoh wisdom to rule over the land. Once again, the python associated with what? Wisdom, understanding. See? And it's important to understand this because people allowed religious dogma to turn you away and to make you feel as though the snake was evil, some type of evil deity. It wasn't. The snake was not evil. The snake was representative of a certain thing. All right? The snake was representative of wisdom intelligence, understanding, okay? Harmony. Now let's look at Damballa in other cultures, because we see what it was in Egypt. And another thing about Egypt that you got to remember is, in Egypt was not the start of the knowledge. It was a continuation of knowledge that really came out of Congo Basin in parts of West Africa that made its way into Egypt. But see, the reason that it was harder to find these excavations, these artifacts, was because how can you keep a record in a tropical rainforest at that time? You're not able to properly record records in a rainforest. But Egypt, on the other hand, is in a desert. So when you write it on a tablet, it stays there. But what are you going to write it on in a rainforest? A leaf? You feel me? It's going to decay. So records were very difficult to keep in closer to that Congo Basin. And this is what would take place. So a lot of oral tradition lives there. A lot of oral tradition lives there because of this. Okay? So yeah, and also remember, Egypt, as well as being a continuation, the society of Egypt did not start these things, but the people of Egypt were the remnants of those people that came out of the Congo Basin, all those Proto-Bantu people that continued to spread amongst that part of Africa. So the Egyptians had blood ties to that area for sure. You know what I'm saying? But the society of Egypt itself, no, these concepts existed before the society of Egypt. So let's look at Hinduism. In Hinduism, you have the Naga. So what's a Naga? A member of a class of mythical semi-divine beings, half human and half cobra. They are a strong, handsome species who can assume either wholly human or wholly serpentine form. See? Our traditions coming up again in other cultures. Pay attention. The creator deity Brahma relegated the Nagas to the nether regions when they became too populous on earth and commanded them to bite only the truly evil or those destined to die prematurely. Once again, the snake associated with what? Purity. Purity. So in Hindu tradition, they sent gods, basically Brahma, sent the Nagas to only bite the people that were evil. But y'all running around talking about, oh, cast out the serpent, he's evil. Man, pay attention to history. You have to do cross-study to understand the context of a thing. And then you'll get a deeper insight. Listen. They are also associated with waters, rivers, lakes, seas, and wells, and are guardians of treasure. Once again, remember I said, when the snake of the Salido Hills started to move, it created the rivers, the valleys, the oceans, the lakes, right? Look at Hindu tradition. We see the same concept coming up again. Many Nagas exist. You have Astika, Adisisha, Vasuki, Kalia, and Manasa Devi. So in their tradition, you have Shesha, who in the Hindu myth of creation supports Narayana or Vishnu as he lies on a cosmic ocean and on whom the created world rests. So once again, the serpent is associated with what? Creation. Now let's look at another aspect of Hinduism. The translation of Kundalini Shakti from Sanskrit to English is serpent power. This Kundalini energy is said to be like a snake coiled at the base of the spine, waiting to be released to your highest power and awakening. So the Kundalini energy itself is also the serpent. Damballah Wedo. They can say Kundalini, I'm going to say Damballah Wedo. Because I'm African descent. So understand, that's Damballah Wedo. The awakening. Remember, Damballa is associated with what? Awakening. Intelligence. See what I'm saying? And when he awakened, he pop up through them 7 chakras. He hit your crown, and boom, you awaken. That's Damballa. That's Damballa. But Hindu people call it Kundalini. Asian people call it Chi. Right? Okay. It's all coming back to Damballa. Now let's look in Christianity. We go to the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. And what happened in the garden? The serpent tempted them to eat fruit from the tree of what? Knowledge, against the will of God. Important to understand this. The serpent had them eat from the tree of knowledge. Damballa, once again, associated with what? Wisdom in the Bible now. So even these people understood that, but they twisted the narrative on it. Okay? So let's keep going. After the fruit was eaten, Adam and Eve had vision, noticed their nudity, and procreation began. So Damballa is associated with reproduction again. Because if it wasn't for Damballah Wedo, Adam and Eve wouldn't have seen each other naked. They wouldn't have procreated. So the serpent is the awakening of mankind. Not only that, the serpent is the reason you have a mother, a father, a daughter, a sister, a brother, a son, a grandmother, a grandfather, an aunt, an uncle, friends. That all comes from the serpent. So when you say, I'm going to cast out the serpent, you're going to cast out your whole family. Because they're connected. You see what I'm saying? No serpent, no procreation. Damballa was the awakening of the world. I Bobo. Told y'all I came to preach the voodoo gospel today. Told y'all. Now let's look at the medical symbol. The Asclepius is the Greek demigod of medicine. So when you look on an ambulance, you see a staff and you see the snakes running up the staff. Damballa, Ayida Wedo. But they don't call it that. In Greek, they call it Asclepius. So the Greeks regarded snakes as sacred and used them in healing rituals to honor Asclepius. Once again, associated with the life force. See, Hollywood twisted it on you. They made it something else. So when you watch the movie Chucky, for instance, he goes and he looks to the sky and he goes, Damballah Wedo, and then the lightning strikes and gives him life. It wasn't that it was evil. Hollywood know your science. So what they were telling you was Damballa gave Chucky the life force. It wasn't bad or good. It just was. It just happened that Chucky used it for wrong. Okay? But the force is the force. So Damballa came and he gave it to you. He gave it to you. And look at Greece saying the same thing. Snake venom was thought to be medicinal, and their skin shedding was viewed as a symbol of rebirth and renewal. Once again. Okay? This is very important to understand because if you don't realize the context, you will be afraid of things that you should not be afraid of. Damballa is who even brought me into awakening truly. I just didn't realize it was Damballa. And it started with an urge to become vegetarian. And I grew up in a straight Puerto Rican household. We ate everything. And I'm from the streets. I'm from one of the poorest counties in New Jersey, all right? Cumberland County. It's the poorest county in New Jersey. So we just eat whatever. You know what I'm saying? We eat bad. So for me to come from that environment and suddenly I want to go vegetarian, people was looking at me crazy like, damn, bro, for real? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to eat meat no more. And I stopped eating meat. And then after I stopped eating meat, I started to get awakenings in other aspects of my life. I started to get a thirst for ancient, old information. Very old information. That was Damballa. And then Damballa purified my spirit. Because I was still holding on to guilt from the streets. I was still holding on to things that I went through, and Damballa burnt that out my system, and I was able to grow from it. That was due to Damballah Wedo. So imagine if I was afraid of it. I would never have gotten to a certain point on my journey to continue it. And that's why it's important for y'all to realize the context of the thing that you read or the context of the thing that you're studying. Because if you don't realize the context, you'll be afraid of things that you should be running to, but you'll be running away from them. There's a reason why a negative spin was put on the serpent when it comes to religion. And that is because they don't want you to awaken. They want you to just blindly follow things and not question. Damballa represents wisdom. He represents thinking. He represents critical thinking. He represents intelligence. Nothing about those books represent that. They represent following, being a follower of, okay? Very important, man. Y'all gotta realize what's going on around you so you can be aware, man, and see what's going on. So that's why I tell y'all this, man. Dig deep. Dig deep, man. Dig deep. Damballah Wedo. He's the awakening. He's the life force. He's that thing that runs up your spine. He's the thing that hits your third eye. Boom. He's peace. He's harmony. You can use Damballa to bring harmony to your house. You can use Damballa to bring prosperity to your business. You can use Damballa to create healing. You know what I'm saying? Recently I put up a post. My mother had COVID. I went to Damballa. She got rid of COVID very quickly. Just know that. It was a bounce back. Boom, boom. And she had severe asthma. Damballah Wedo is the key. Understand that. Damballah Wedo, the life force. The sperm that connects to the egg that brings life. There's nothing evil about that. Don't let these people fool you out of your divinity. Don't let these people fool you out of tapping into your true power, tapping into your true potential, tapping into who you truly are. Stay strong and grounded in yourself and allow that serpent to rise within you to create that radiance. That radiance that connects to the rainbow. Okay? To create that radiance. Remember, the chakras are different colors, correct? I just told you Damballa's wife is what? The rainbow serpent. You think that's a coincidence? Of course not. Of course not. This is your culture. Take it. Take the culture. Utilize the culture. It's for you. If you're from a different tradition or you're from a different ancestral background, understand the origin of that thing so that you can have a deeper understanding of what you're practicing as well. And you can give proper respect to where it came from. And it will just make your practice stronger. You did? So that's what I want to leave y'all with, family. Like and share this video. Subscribe. And y'all stay strong out here, man. Y'all stay enlightened. Y'all stay wise. Y'all stay in harmony and stay in peace.